Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Nina Gervase Show. Today, I have another amazing guest with me who is dear to my heart, but on the other side of the earth in Australia. And I'm just like, girl, I need you here for hugs. We met at a retreat in Nashville, and it was like instant connection. Her energy is amazing. She is totally magnetic. And when I got to see her on her videos and different things, I'm like, oh man, this girl's not talking to me because I'm not a doctor, but she is speaking my language. So I'd like to introduce to you, I'm going to read her bio real quick. Kristeen Barker is a nephrologist, medical educator, and podcaster. She's the founder of a global education platform supporting doctors in training to navigate exams and doctor life. Her work blends medical education with well-being to help doctors achieve their potential and build a life and career that they actually enjoy. So, Kristeen, welcome.
Oh my goodness, thank you for having me. I am lit to be here. I'm so excited.
Listen, guys, I have to tell you, the fact that we were like, what were we, 30 something women sitting in that room in Nashville for this 3-day retreat. And we're all going around the room where we're from. And then Christine's like, oh, and I'm from Australia. We all turn and look at her. We're like, you mean like the country? Like the continent? Like you mean on the other side of the earth? And you came all that way. And that spoke volumes to me about you as a person taking a chance on things. And we were kind of just chit-chatting before we came on camera about what we were going to talk about today. And there is such a connection between my listeners, women who are looking for that bravery to start something new, looking for that courage, looking for like, how do I do this? And also Christine's audience who are also doctors and things starting off on a new path. So I'm really excited because, girl, I mean, let's say it, right? Like, you're a young woman who is really pioneering something that is going to help tons of doctors and their patients, not just them. It is a domino effect. What you're doing is going to help so many people. And I would love for us to go back to the beginning a little bit. Like you became a nephrologist. So that was like, you didn't just become a doctor, you chose a specific field. Some people might be afraid to choose something so specific. So talk to us about how you got into this.
Oh, it's funny, right? Because I was thinking about how, becoming a doctor at all, it was something that kind of just happened by circumstance. I didn't really know what it meant to be a
Mhm.
doctor or in reality what that would involve. But I went to med school straight from high school, which you can do I'm originally from Scotland, although I live in Australia now. And we go straight from high school to med school. And I was getting good grades and I really liked working with people and I thought I really want to help people and I also liked studying science. So it was just that combination of, you know, all of those factors. I thought, okay, I'll try med school. If I get in, great. If I don't, I'll do something different. And I got into med school and then, doing med school, you're sort of, it's your full-time job to learn. You think it's hard at the time and then you become a doctor and it's this whole new ball game. It's a whole new thing. And, I thought your training was I don't know, it's like an interesting job being a doctor. It's an absolute privilege, but it kind of expands you in different ways. There's lots of trials and
Mhm.
tribulations in there. But when you're doing that, you're not thinking too hard about life. You're like, I am here on a training program and this is the end goal. I want to be a specialist. And at that time I'd picked kidneys. I wanted to be a kidney specialist and a nephrologist. So I knew where I was going. So it was just, head down, get it done and get to the other side. And when you're doing that, I was really thinking that that is going to be happiness. That's when I'm going to start living my life, is when I become a specialist. That's the destination. And what was really heartbreaking was I actually got to the end of that. I became a consultant when I was 31. I'm 40 now, so a while ago. But I remember just emerging from that thinking, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I really didn't imagine it to be this kind of dulled experience. I kind of got spat out the other side of my training to the point where I didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor anymore. I really because I'd equated by that time being a doctor felt bad. It felt terrible. I didn't really think I was living my life fully, right? And I sort of thought, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. And I know you resonate with this because I listened to,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that you've got this plan for the next 50 years. And it was just that moment. I was like, this ain't it. I can't do this for the rest of my life. So I kind of had this moment where I thought, okay, I'm going to have to choose myself and living life and joy. And does that mean I can still be a doctor? I'm not sure. So we kind of detached a little bit from that. But at the same time that was happening, I was having all these messages as well that although I'd reached this destination of becoming a specialist, people around me, like professor types, were saying, oh, that's not enough. Now you need to do a PhD and now you need to do a master's to be worth anything. No one's going to hire you if you don't have these things.
They
And
were
I'm
adding
thinking,
and adding.
just changing the goalposts. And, you know, when you're a doctor, you kind of, in your training program, it's hard to be yourself during that. There's a lot of conformity and just doing what you're supposed to do, jumping through the hoops you're supposed to jump through. But by that time, when I become a specialist, I thought that was when I got to choose my life. And people around me were telling me that wasn't the way it worked. So there was another thing I had to let go of, which was doing what everyone else wanted me to do. And, you know, it wasn't even true what they were saying. I still got a job at a public hospital. I got to do all the things I wanted to do, teach med
Even
students, teach
without the
doctors.
PhD, all the other stuff that they told you.
Yeah. I didn't do it. I think I thought I was going to do it. Like I thought, okay, someone's going to make me do a master's or a PhD at some point. And I think I thought I might. But it just, every time I sat down to look at that path, I would get this full body no. Like I'm quite intuitive, and it would just, my whole body would be like, that is not your path. And I just would know it. So, you know, just kind of, I couldn't go down that path. It was like, you know, if you're in a relationship with someone, you're like, no, that's not it. I just know it's not it. You know, I need to move this way. So just that kind of knowing that we all can tune into. But it was a tricky little time, like that interface of finishing my training and getting to where I thought I'd always wanted to be. And all of those years of my life, living in the library, getting to that point and being uncertain. It was a bit of a journey. But now, like, I am so glad for that experience. And I really use a lot of that experience as fuel, because it's vivid to me how hard it was for me as a doctor in training, studying for my exams and doing the thing. And even just being a healthcare worker or anyone who works with people, there are these challenges that I'm so aware of. And so I think I've used all of those experiences as fuel for what I do now. Yeah.
Well, what I heard you say, and you said it 2 times in different ways. You followed your intuition because you wanted to help people to go into medicine and then to specialize. So you followed that intuition and you went with it. And I love that. And I applaud that, because so many people ignore their intuition, right? And they just are looking at their life and saying, I feel like this is where I should go, but is it secure enough? Is it the right thing? And then when others were telling you to follow another path and add and change your journey, that you listen to that, hell no, it's not for me kind of feeling. Like you felt it inside. You said full body. And that was the next time that you were following your path forward, which I think a lot of women, especially if they're being told your only way to this goal is to follow this path, is to do this thing, would say, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to have to do it. And I applaud you, because that, even at such a young age, being told by people, let's say, with more experience, more years in the business, that you have to do this, you followed your own path. You go, girl. I love it.
To an extent, right? Because even though I am intuitive, I lost my way so many times. I think it's important to say that, because even though I wasn't conforming and doing all the things in my head, there were still ways that I was showing up where I wasn't doing the thing I was supposed to be doing. I was being pulled towards building this platform. But I remember having, like, for example, medical education jobs at the university. I love those jobs, but I think the most recent one that I had, that I finished up in 2023, that one I really was doing to tick a box. You know, if I have a job at the university, then I'm a valid medical educator and people will see me as a medical educator. And so I think I was still looking for that little tick box that made me worthy of my position in some way,
Yeah.
and that other doctors would look at me that way. And it was really interesting because I realized along the way that I engaged in those distractions. Like I went there because I was trying to conform and because I was trying to, find my worth in places where it didn't live.
Wow.
And yeah, so I think even if you are intuitive and even if you are listening to the nudges, it's like that GPS system. You might choose it might have been the right path, it might have been the wrong path, but you'll get back on track. It just takes a bit longer when you do it that way.
I was just listening to a video, and I'm going to do a whole segment on this by Cody Sanchez that said, the
I love her.
winners are the ones who know how to quit quickly. The winners are the ones who know when something is not working, change direction quickly, pivot quickly. Winners are not losers. Winners lose. Winners have had losses. Winners have tried more things and have gone for more attempts, which is why you found your path. You tried things that, okay, didn't end up working out to ultimately be on the path that you're on now. So winning doesn't come without bumps in the road. Winning doesn't come without all of this. It comes with a lot of it. That's the point, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I think, yeah, there was things like that where, yeah, there was distractions and sort of pain that I put myself through. But then I think, when you're in your business as well, I would love to hear if this is the same. But I was thinking about whoever's listening and starting out on a journey and maybe wanting to start a business, maybe wanting to do something that's a bit out there. And it can feel, especially if you don't know a lot of people who are doing it, you can feel really exposed. Yeah, you really have to give yourself
Mm.
permission to do what you want to do and back yourself, because no one's going to cheer for you. Like, you're going to have to do it yourself and roll that dice. But along the way, I felt like there were lots of challenges that to talk about, they don't sound like big things, but see, when you're going through them, they really are. So, for example, there's obviously the big stuff like, performance anxiety and showing up online and all that stuff. That stuff's so obvious that that's tricky and something you have to learn to hold.
Mm.
But there was other stuff like when you have a mailing list and you've got this little mailing list and you're thinking they're your little buddies and you're connected with them in some way. And then you send an email and you get unsubscribes. And then you
You're
feel
like,
like
what?
rejected, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And you're having this kind of meltdown in your office because someone unsubscribed from your mailing list. It sounds hilarious, but I just wanted to be real that
True.
stuff hurts when it first happens. It really
Yeah.
does.
Be,
And
well,
so there was all that.
and that's also
Yeah.
because what I heard you say as well, and I'm glad that you said it, and I want to explore it a little bit as we then now like look at how it helped you. You tied a happiness in your mind to an outcome, being like, okay, once I get this specialty, once I do this, that's
Mhm.
where my happiness will be. And you got there and you were like, hold up, wait a minute, not it.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting because again, people feel like if I some are even afraid to start, right? Some people are even afraid to start something, but then others are like, I'm going to be happy when I get there. And it's
Mhm.
that took a lot for you to say because I don't think a lot of people will admit that they tied their happiness to something like that.
Yeah, and I think you learn that again and again, don't you? Like, I still make that mistake. Oh, once I do this, that'll be a great thing. But the truth is, it's so cliche, but the lived experience, I wonder what you think, Nina, is that the actual the actual process and the becoming and who you get to be and
Hmm.
how you change, that's actually what's happening. Like, you think, oh, I'm building a course and I hope people come. And then it's all of the stuff that happens. The actual destination is the self-development. And it's like, you don't realize that until you kind of sit and you emerge one day and you're like, God, I'm a different person. And there's things right now that would not shake me, that shook me to my core at the start and all of that stuff. But the destination is not the point. And I learned that lesson again and again, I think.
Well, wisdom, what I was just going to say is it's the wisdom that through the learning that brought you to this understanding, right? Like it was the evolution, it
Mhm.
was who you were becoming and all of that. And
Yeah.
did you during that time have, and it's more of a new age kind of a
Mhm.
thing, right? A coach or a mentor that was holding a mirror up to their own wisdom and reflecting it to you to say, hey, look, this is what happened in my life. Did you have anybody like that?
Not so much. Like in what I was doing, I felt so different and so unique. And I felt like, I guess you could describe it as trailblazing. Like people say that to me, oh, you're a trailblazer. Like I didn't really know that's what I was doing, but it was something different. And not just on the medical education front, but also the doctor wellbeing front. It's something that I feel that like I've got a podcast myself as well with my co-host, Dr. Beck, and she's a mindset coach. And we talk about a lot of things that I don't hear a lot of people in medicine talking about. We really shine light in places and tell a lot of truths about things. So I do feel like I go first in many ways. But what I have been grateful for is, I have drowned out the noise. There were people who said unsupportive things and just cancelling them and finding people who are doing something similar. So although I never found a mentor ever, but my friend Beck, she was in the online space, and that's how we became friends. And so she was experiencing this kind of weird thing where you put yourself online and really put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I had a lot to learn from her. And we've been so supportive. We share all the highs and lows. We have the Voxer chat. She doesn't live near me. She lives in another state, but we have the Voxer chat. We talk every day. And I think she's been a real catalyst in my own development, because no matter what happened, she would keep me safe. So another example where she changed my game was I had done this program. I had sold this program, my written program, for the first time, and there was 30 people that signed up, and I was delighted with that. And I was getting ready to sort of do this thing to a room of 30 people. But of course, not 30 people, not everyone showed up, right, to this online event. But I'd rehearsed it and I was ready to do it, and it was a super interactive thing. And one person showed up, Nina, and I died inside, because I think I was equating like the quality of the thing that I'd never done before. It wasn't like it had been done before, to the amount of people that showed up, and I was embarrassed and I had a lot of shame. And I came off that call and I was telling my friend Beck, and she was like, I'm so happy for you, this is great. And I was like, what are you talking about? That was awful. And she was like, oh, but now you're bulletproof. Like, you'll go through life now, and if you do any tutorial, if there's one person, that's going to be enough for you. That's a crowd. And I'm like, wow. And she was right. So there was things like that where I was broken, put back together by a good friend. Yeah. So I'd recommend.
I love that mindset, the idea of like, even now if just one shows, you've got this kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, all right.
That's happened again. It's been great. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about like you have courses in this sort of thing. So explain to the audience how you transitioned and what called you to go from always just doing clinical work and being in that space with patients to realizing there was something more that you want to do, and what you did. Because we're talking about your courses, your podcasts, and that sort of thing, but I want them to really get like, I was here. First, I went to school, then I did my clinicals, and I'm here in this space. And then I realized, tell me more.
Yeah, it's funny, because it was very stepwise. Like, I didn't know what I was building until many years later. Like, now I look around and I'm like, wow, like I've made this whole platform. But it was built on my annual leave, if I'm honest. Like, when I would get a break from clinical work, I would make these little modules and tutorials. And my goal at that time, and it's still my goal ultimately, is just to help past Kristeen. She was having a tough time during her training, and I wanted to make things that were happy, joyful, colourful, medical education style, with infused well-being, like with infused good vibes. And that's just what I did. And I did it just from this organic place of the craft. Like, I just wanted to give back and I wanted to help people. And I was building it so once I had my little email list, I would put out things like, I'm thinking about doing this tutorial. Would anyone want this? And they would tell me what the pain points were. And I would just build things based on what I thought they needed. And the whole business has been developed that way. And I never sat down one day and thought, I'm going to build this. It just happened by listening to every single intuitive nudge and just following that. And to be honest, it wasn't like that was always rosy in the garden either. You get these downloads and you get really excited about a project or a tutorial or whatever I was making. And then once you start making it, you're like, this is real hard. Like, I can tell why no one has made this yet. This is hard.
That's and so the pioneer.
right? The messy middle. You're like, oh, like I hope to get to the other side of this. And then it gets made and created. So I really, it wasn't a conscious decision, if that makes sense. It was just following this magnetism that I couldn't say no to, just following where I was being led. And obviously, like I said, I did deviate from that sometimes. I put it on hold sometimes when, I should or shouldn't have, but I always was pulling me back, and it was just something that was coming from me so organically. It was just my
Mm-hmm.
unique expression. So I couldn't help but do it. And even on days where I was doing clinical work, I wouldn't feel quite right. Like I wouldn't feel settled unless I'd done just a little bit. I'd get in real early and I'd do like 30 minutes, half an hour of just something, writing a little YouTube script or reading an article for my YouTube script or something like that. I would do something that just felt like, okay, I've scratched that itch of, whatever it is that I'm creating here in this space. It comes so organically from me.
You can
Yeah,
feel
it's
that in your videos. You can feel that it's literally just not scripted, like not maybe you have some kind of a basis to go by, but that you're speaking passionately from the heart. So you went from being a doctor and realizing, okay, there's two other things I can be helping here. I can be helping doctors pass their exams because this is where they're having trouble. This is where they're getting stuck. There is an easier path forward, and you were helping them do that. And also the other side of it was helping them deal with patients as well. I mean, there was a two-part side to this. So that's why I keep saying, and why I said in the beginning, you're not just helping the person pass an exam, you're also helping them with their dealing with the patients that they're with. I have heard your videos where you're saying, you need to understand that the patient, this or whatever the case may be, having them have a wider view. Because as you said, even in the beginning, we can have blinders on and we can say, I'm going to this goal. Like my goal is to pass an exam. Well, it's not just to pass an exam, become a doctor. It's to become a whole person, to treat the whole person, to see beyond just the symptoms in front of you and take more in. Because I've heard you speak on more than just nephrology. That's for sure on your videos.
I think, yeah, you're speaking my language now. And this is actually something I'm so passionate about. And I do want to spread this message more. So thank you for saying that. But it's this I see when I speak to my audience, I call them doctor humans. And there's a reason for that, because I think we do get all tangled up with being a doctor and we think it's who we are. And that is not who we are. There's so much more to us. But what I honestly think is that human part, or unique essence, that part is therapeutic. Like that part
Mm.
is when you're at the interface of something hard with another human being, you're using your doctor skills and the skills you learned, but there's this other part that's with you and it's your absolute essence. And I think that we don't focus enough on the value of that. But that only comes through when you've got permission to find it, right?
Mm.
Permission to be yourself and permission to like express your authenticity, which I think is lost with a lot of doctors in training. They don't have permission. So that is one of my themes that I have going and that I really want to do more of, is to actually give doctors permission to be themselves more so that they can be more connected with that human interface that actually is the most helpful thing to the patient. When I see patients, I've learned a lot of stuff, I've done a lot of training, but the thing that they're like, oh, you're really listening to me or something. It's something so basic that they're so impressed with. And it's just, I don't think patients ask for much, but I think that the impact that we can have is it's tied to that human part, and it's tied to our own well-being. When we've got a regulated nervous system, when we are having
Mm.
a joyful life, we can be, and I think we can be therapeutic with our training, but there's like an extra level of therapeutic that I think that we miss out on if we're losing ourselves in the process. So yeah, that's a passion
Hmm.
of mine.
I mean, honestly, when I think, I mean, I already knew that you were pioneering the idea of, I'm going to help doctors pass exams, right? So there probably were very few of you online doing this when you started, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the greats. There's some people on YouTube and things that do so well in this space, like the originals. And so they're in a whole other league. So obviously I had them as examples or inspiration to go and do my own thing. But I don't see a lot of people, like a lot of that's for medical students, for example. There's so many more of them. I do doctors, so that's a little bit more niche down. And then this well-being element, I haven't seen anyone else do that. Like I there might
Mm.
be someone, I haven't met them, and I'm sure there are people just like me out there who are doing this, but I just haven't come across them yet. So right now I can't think of another example of someone who infuses the vibes into the medical education.
Honestly,
Yeah.
especially with your enthusiasm. I mean, that's one of the things that, guys, I'm telling you, when we met Kristeen in Nashville, our first, she's bubbly and she's excited. And we're like, and she's a doctor. She's not like this boring, stuffy person who's sitting, on the side. No, like totally full of enthusiasm. So I love that you, again, another pioneering side of this is giving permission. That word permission is freaking huge. Most of us don't give ourselves permission to be ourselves. We're always like looking to conform in some way or not be too much of ourselves or, not be too loud or this or that. And like your videos, you're like all you, first of all, which gives me permission to be me. But then it helps, I think it helps with that relatability, right? Like people see you and they're like, I can connect with her. I can carry that forward into my practice, into my patients. And when you give that permission to somebody to open up, holy crow, like they get out of their blinders and they can see even more.
Yeah, yeah, and I see this in my ward work because obviously I don't see what anyone who's connected with me online what they're doing, but when I'm on the wards with my juniors now, like they are practicing medicine in a different way than I think I was allowed to practice medicine. And what lights them up is the patient journey and they're like cheering the patient on and all this stuff. There actually is like what I actually see in my life experience now is not stuffy and conformative. There's actually a lot of laughter, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of obviously medicine has these horrible days where really awful things can happen. But I think most of my experience right now when I'm interacting with my juniors and things is positive, but I think they tell me it is dependent on who you're around because there's just some people that they feel like they have to be a chameleon depending on which consultants on which day they're molding and shifting into whoever that person wants them to be. So obviously
Mm.
with me, I love authenticity. So I'm going to be really bothered if they're not authentic and I'll be
Yeah.
digging deep for whoever they are. I'm like, please be yourself. It's upsetting me. But like, obviously other people might want them to be a certain way. And so they are in that place where they are seeking permission to be themselves. But I guess as leaders and I'm sure this happens in other industries as well, if you are leading a team, like you actually give that permission. You don't have to say it out loud. You just have
Mm.
to demonstrate some kind
Correct.
of
And you're demonstrating it.
authenticity.
You're demonstrating it
Yeah.
in the way that your approach is with them when you are doing your rounds and all of the stuff with the juniors and everything. You're living it and therefore giving them the permission for it.
Yeah, yeah. And that has been like an absolute journey. Like if I think about the permission that I had to give myself, like I say, Nina, it's been literal years. Like I would love to say like authenticity could happen in 2 days. It didn't for me. It was years and years and years of just showing up and doing things that were uncomfortable
Oh
and
yeah.
um and
Going
just
through the
learning who I
motions, you have
was.
to.
Yeah, and like learning that that was safe and creating safety for myself even. So I think it's a whole process. So just to say permission to be yourself, that's great, but I think it is a decision you need to make because
Yes.
to go on the journey, it feels so uncomfortable on a daily basis, to be yourself and be authentic or put your hand up and say you don't know something or ask a question at a conference or something like that. That's authenticity too. And I still find stuff like that a little bit like,
But what
like,
you said though, like, like giving yourself permission, the idea of like, I can raise my hand and all of that. And like, it's
yeah,
a decision. You said it's a decision, and it really,
yeah,
really is. I mean, you can decide to conform and just keep going, or, you know, and sit back and do what you're told, or you can decide, like, well, I do need to do these things, but I'm also going to be myself. I'm also going to find my path. And so, how did you come into now creating this super successful course that you have? You're doing so much, right? So I think that's one of the things that women fear is like, can I add one more thing to my plate? Can I pursue this dream of creating a course? Can I pursue this chance on myself? Because it is taking a chance. You don't know. You didn't know when you started the journey toward creating an online course if it would succeed or not. You already told us that you did something and one person showed up and you felt bad, right? Like, and then your friend was like, hello, that's actually awesome. Like, so when you start things, I love that you're not sure how it's going to turn out, but you're having the bravery, the courage to go forward because I believe you give yourself permission to be authentic to do it. So tell us a little bit about like your mindset to create this, knowing that you had one person show up before, like what it meant for you going into this, and now how the course is going, because there are a lot of women wanting to start something out there. So they need to hear the example that somebody else can do it so they can give themselves permission to do it.
I think this is such a great question, and there's so many layers to it, isn't there? I think one thing to say though, that as a doctor, because I still have my clinical job, still working as a doctor, so that is a safety net. So working 2 days a week as a doctor, it is plenty of income to support me through. So it wasn't like if I don't make sales, I'm going to starve. It really wasn't that. And I know that a lot of people starting a business, it is that, and it's tricky. And so that said, managing my time was still something, I would get pulled in lots of different directions. And this still happens, to be honest. I still have this competing, I work on like a Tuesday and a Friday as a doctor. So on a Monday, I could be getting really into something and then I get pulled away. And it's so hard to settle back into it. So there is this constant tension even now. I'm just going to be honest that I find really difficult to manage all the things. But I think there's just this, because it is an organic thing, it's just something I magnetize towards. I always go back to it, I gravitate towards it. But in terms of, I put the brakes on myself in lots of different ways. And so I think kind of to answer your question, it's like, well, how do you stop getting in your own way? How do you give yourself permission and make sure that you're giving yourself a chance to achieve your potential? And I think that, again, that comes back to just a decision, but with the privilege of having an income to support myself. But I remember I was working at the university and I had this job, and it was 1 day a week at the university, and it was sort of paying my mortgage payment. And I also, like I said before, that it also meant, I was valid. I was a medical educator at university, that I need to keep a hold of that. But at the same time, I wanted to do so much more in what I was creating in my business. And it really wasn't a business at that time. It wasn't making any money at all, really. Like it was maybe 10,000 a year would pay for my software, right? Not my time at all. So when I was working at the university, that's where I was at. And I had this tension and this calling, but I guess I had to make a decision. I had to say, okay, well, if I just put this time, even just this 1 day a week extra into that, what would happen? What would be possible for me? And so I quit that job, rolled the dice on that. And that was when my business actually became a business and actually was profitable. It was just a commitment. So I did that. And the other thing I did was I was doing a lot of singer-songwriter stuff at the time. So I was making content for that, and I was making content for my business at the same time. And I really decided to shelve that musical side of me just because I wanted to go all in. So it was really a decision like, okay, it's now or never. You're never going to know what your potential is unless you just try. So it was more about, I didn't want to have regrets when I got later in life that, I never took the chance when I had it. I never explored my own potential. So it was more about that personal not wanting to have regrets. And then,
That's huge.
quitting that job, but also shelving something else that I loved, that was taking a lot of my time. So I just want to say that as well, because I think to make room for stuff, you do have to, or in my experience, you have to sacrifice something. Something has to go to make room for something else. And but since then, my business has really taken off. And in some ways, I feel like I'm just getting started as well. But that
Yes.
was a blessing. Yeah.
Because what you've already described was an evolution. And the idea is you continue to evolve and you're continuing to grow and you're continuing to follow the intuition and the light and the path and that sort of thing. And as you continue, of course, like this isn't the end. Who knows what the next thing will be? But what I also heard you say is consistency. Like, okay,
Mm.
I had the security of a job, like something that was bringing an income. And even though what you were doing wasn't like the other portion of it, the online stuff, wasn't bringing in tons of money, you didn't abandon it just because it wasn't like through the roof money. You stayed consistent. You continued with it. You saw, okay, I see, I feel, I think even more so for you, you felt a bigger dream, you felt a bigger pull, and that's what continued to pull you forward. Even if it wasn't bringing in the huge money in the beginning, you knew that there was more there.
Yeah, I did have that intuitive knowing that there was something else there. But then I think that also made me change how I saw it as well. Because if I was losing this other job and I was losing part of my income, then now it's going to have to become a business, isn't it? So it kind of also flicked a switch to be like, well, I'm going to have to start making money from that too, which
Mm.
I think I had a lot of personal issues with, putting a credit card in there. Like I had a lot of trouble because it was coming from such a beautiful place of just wanting to help the doctors that I felt I had to overcome this abundance barrier, I guess we'll call it, where I
Mm.
I really didn't want to sell it, or I didn't want to sell it for as much as it was worth. And even now,
Wow.
I still think it's not, I don't sell things for as much as they're actually worth. And I know that sounds like I'm underdoing it, but what I mean is there is a balance of when you do your pricing, it's an intuitive thing where you want people to actually experience it. So you don't want to set it too high that they don't come. But it's like, but at that time, I very much undervalued what I did. But because I was losing this other job and I was saying goodbye to that, I thought I'm going to have to see if I can turn this into a business. So I think it was that as
Mm.
well. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's
It
just another
does,
piece of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Have you ever asked any of your clients, your students, what they would have paid for the value that you had given them had you not set a price on it?
Oh, this is a really good question. Oh, so there were people who came to my courses and would say, Christine, you should charge a lot more. They had maybe bought like a fairly low ticket thing and would tell me this is worth a lot more. And they still tell me this for the current products, still tell me it. But there were people also when I was testing my products, and this is what I want everyone to hear, and I'd give people a tutorial for free just to try it out, make sure there was no mistakes in it, and just putting the feelers out. I was brand new to the whole thing, and they would do the tutorial. They would tell me really good feedback about it, and I would ask them, which do not do this, by the way, this is bad advice, don't do this. I would ask them, how much would you pay for that? And they would say, oh no, I wouldn't pay for it. No,
Are
I just, yeah.
you
And
kidding?
I'm serious. And that happened with multiple people who supported me, who thought it was good. And they were like, I wouldn't pay for it. And I think that was such an interesting
Ah.
experience because, later I learned that you don't ask that question. You don't
Mm.
ask people what they would do theoretically. You put something out and then you'll see what happens. People will buy it or they won't buy it. And that's how you know your pricing. And also intuition. I think intuition is important for pricing. You've got to meet yourself where you are as well with the pricing and gradually expand into it. So I guess, but I think it's important to say that people will tell you negative
Actually,
things.
I have to tell you, I think that tells us more about their mindset than about your product. Because a person with a scarcity mindset will say, oh, I wouldn't pay for that because they couldn't see parting with money to gain something because they're so afraid to let go of money, right? And you are, approaching this in a very different way. You are giving value and that sort of thing. In fact, you have a different scarcity mindset. You are giving so much value that you're like, oh, but I'm not sure if I should charge more or not for it, you know? And I agree. There's definitely a balance between, I want people to be able to have this, to be able to benefit from it. I know the domino effect that it will have overall across the patients, the world, and everything like that. So pricing it correctly. But I got to tell you, that's more their scarcity mindset, their inability to part with money for learning something. They're probably the same people who won't put themselves in a mastermind. They're probably the same people who won't hire a coach. They're not the people who have the growth mindset that you and I have, because I'd be like, oh yeah, like 5,000. Like, right? Like you and I know, because
Yeah.
we've invested in ourselves and they're not ready to invest in themselves.
But even then, I remember all the little moments in my business where you just start to invest. I remember having, like, the free versions of software and doing lots of things manually without automations and things, because the upgrade was like X amount and I wasn't making money from what I was doing. And again, that there's these little things where you kind of have to become that person who's going to
Yeah.
invest in yourself, even if you don't know that you're going to get the return, which is what you're saying, right? But yeah, but I think what's beautiful about that now, looking back, is obviously there's so many things that people tell you that aren't actually true. And
Mm.
it's about cutting out that noise and tuning into yourself and really figuring out what you want to take on board, what you want to leave behind, and what do you want to believe, because it ultimately comes down to how much you believe in yourself.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
ultimately where it
Say that
comes.
again. Say it again. It comes down to,
How you believe in yourself. It's so
yeah.
true. Like, no one's gonna cheer for you. People are gonna try and keep you safe as well. And even this makes this even worse. When I was asking that person how much they would pay for that tutorial was being sold to people on my little email list for 14.99 Australian dollars. That's about 10 American dollars for a tutorial that took me like 6 months to research and make. It's
Girlfriend.
ridiculous. They learned a topic in an hour that took me months to figure out how to teach it. And it was just funny. Oh no, it was great, but I wouldn't buy it. So what if I'd listened, is the thing that I want everyone to hear. And people will say things that they think is helpful feedback, and you are going to have to back yourself. Yeah, when you're doing this thing that you want to do. Mm.
Filter out the stuff that you know is not to be true about the product and about what it is that you're trying to do. You are so right that there are people in your lives, family members, friends, that will want to keep you safe, right? And so
Mhm.
they may not encourage you to go for the big dream, or because you're adding one more thing to your plate. You're doing this sort of thing. And if you continue to listen to what other people tell you, you may never pursue that dream. You pursued several different like avenues of income at the same time, while not abandoning one thing and building. And even if it didn't, grow like crazy in the beginning, you stayed consistent with it and you continued to evolve with it. And so now you're at a point where you were telling me you have like great success with this new course, which I'm so excited about, because I'm like, girl, I'm dreaming about that. Tell me more. So again, when you see somebody go first, back to the permission thing, it's very much like, oh, Kristeen can do it. I can continue to learn. And you know what? This is what I want all of my listeners to hear right now. Hire a mentor. If you find somebody who has been in those shoes, if you know someone who has done it, ask them, I'll pay you to be my mentor. Ask them to pay them to be your coach. Get in the rooms with the people who are doing what you want so that you can learn how to do it. And I love that you even partnered with what is your partner's name? The one who does the podcast?
Oh, Dr. Beck. Yeah,
Yes,
Dr.
the
Beck.
fact
She's
that
great.
she was your cheerleader, and she said, like, oh, well, this is actually great news. And you're like, what? Again, it's that encouragement, getting in the right place to move you forward, because so many of us, let me say, a lot of us, I'm going to speak for myself, at least for sure, have not reached in my circle the level of success that either I have reached or continue to strive to reach. So if you're not with the people who have done that, they're not going to get you there. That's just not the right place. So you're also creating that for the doctors. You're creating that place for them.
Yeah, but I think that's such an important thing to say is because I feel like now in this reality that I've built for myself, I do consciously surround myself with amazing people, even like you, and like you're on the other side of the world, but when I'm connected with you even on WhatsApp, it's good vibes. And I'm surrounding myself with people even in other countries because that's important to me that I'm influenced by the right people. And I'm not surrounded by anyone who puts limitations on me. And I sometimes forget, I'll hear people talking about how, like women can be quite unsupportive even,
Mm.
I know that that's a concept, but because I don't have any unsupportive women in my life now, I forget that that's a reality. And so I think what you're saying is also true. You don't want to be surrounded by naysayers. Obviously, there's some people that will be in your life that you wouldn't
What can you do?
take them out of your life. What can you do? But I think like consciously finding rooms where you can be celebrated
Yes.
and celebrating the wins and supporting the lows, because it can feel a bit like you're bragging or something, or it's hard to celebrate yourself or all the little wins. Sometimes it's just great to have someone to talk to about that. And not everyone's a safe space to talk about your
Mm-mm.
wins. They're not. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another reason to get in the rooms. Because we're all, in that room, that retreat that we met at, everyone was so different and so successful. And it was just a matter of like, I just see even more for you and just seeing everyone else's potential and just supporting them. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you get to the stage where you can wish someone else well, better things happen to you as well. Like
Yeah.
if I was jealous of all the people, jealousy is not something I really feel very often. It's a really foreign emotion to me now. But I guess what I'm saying is that when anyone who's got a business, I wish that business well because I want mine to do well. So you just wish everyone success.
Karma.
But I think karma. But I think some people do live their life, not from that lens, and they do try and put people down or whatever. So you just want to be really careful with who's around you and who you let influence you. Yeah, I think that's so important.
So Christine and I are both going to be in Jessica Bergio's mastermind, and we talk about being in another room together. And I'm very excited for this. And Jess was asking me, what do you want to get from the mastermind? And one of the things that you said is like being in a room where you can share your successes, right? And being able to do this sort of thing. But the other thing that I want is to learn from people's like down moments. I want to learn from mistakes that they've made. I want your wisdom to help me maybe not make those mistakes because we have to go through the mistakes to get to the good stuff, but help me navigate when I'm in a tough situation. And again, what you're doing with these tutorials and all the things is you're constantly helping people navigate like this could be a problem. This is a problem I face. You said many times, I've heard you so many times over this podcast say you listen carefully to what people are telling you and you try to solve a problem based on what they've told you. And that's what getting in the right room means. That's what taking the right course means, getting with the right mentor, getting with the right coach. They're listening, they're hearing you and learning, getting the wisdom from them, getting the wisdom from the others and being able to grow from that. There's so much growth that happens in the right rooms. It's not just, like, hey, yeah, celebrations. I mean, I do like a little champagne here or there. Celebrate, But I mean, it's got to be learning. I love, in fact, before we even hit record, Christine and I were talking about, I asked Christine, how are you editing something for your short form videos? And so we went back and forth on that. I don't have a lot of people that I can ask that to. So I love that. I went to another woman who I know is super successful in what she's doing, and that we were able to share information. We both walked away with, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll try this. And that's part of being in the right place. That's what you're giving to other doctors. You're giving them the knowledge of other people are struggling here. This is why I've created this.
Yeah, I love everything you just said. And I share that similar excitement. And I think the other thing about speaking to other people as well is you kind of understand that we all have a unique blueprint. And I think when you've got a business and you're trying to learn how to do a business, for anyone who's listening, you'll be listening to podcasts about marketing and putting yourself out there in sales and all that stuff. And I honestly I've arrived at a place where it's not like none of it applies to me, but I just can't apply some of the things that I have been told I should be applying. They don't feel authentic. They make me feel sick. And so, so I just have to do what I'm doing and meet myself where I
You're
am. And
filtering.
yeah, but being in rooms with real people who are also doing something else, you actually quickly realize that there are very different blueprints for all different things. And it actually does show you that there's no one way to do something as well. And obviously trying to take shortcuts and find the best way to do something, like what you were saying, exchanging ideas and finding out from other people's mistakes or failings or just lessons along the way. Like, I think that's so exciting, but yet also just realizing that there's no right or wrong way,
There's
even
just
though
going forward, right?
yeah, going forward, yeah. And
Period.
what's right to you.
You will, as I already said, and I heard in that Cody Sanchez video, you have to start and go forward, which is what you've done many times. You have to go for it, pioneer something that nobody else has done without knowing how it's going to work. And guess what? Like you said, there will be bumps along the way. There will be mistakes that you make. But if you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, if you keep doing, if you continue to tweak and evolve and make the right choices, you're going to keep trudging forward, find a little more success. You know what? I love the idea of celebrating small successes on the way. Like you said, the evolution of you having become the doctor, not necessarily the final destination, but continue to celebrate all the things along the way, because that builds the confidence, right? That can like, hey, yeah, I'm badass. I did these things along the way to get where I am, and I'm going to continue to do the things to get to the next place I want to be. So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, confidence is earned, isn't it? I think that's so true. And I love the thought of like anyone listening. Like, you know, when I first started out, we've talked about everything today, and I'm sure you would feel the same. You know, you can see your past self and what you were facing and all the things. I wish that I had this conversation to listen to where someone just told me all the bits that were hard and all the roadblocks and all the things. Obviously, I don't think we've shared all of the roadblocks. Let's be real, but I think it is helpful. So I guess for everyone listening, I really just want to say, don't stop. If you've got something you want to do, just keep going. Keep listening to Nina's podcast because she will keep you going. And I just, I just wish all of your big dreams to come true for everyone listening. Yeah.
I'm going to have a link to all of your socials and everything else in the description below so that they can follow you. And what I want everybody to hear is you don't have to be a doctor to follow Kristeen and feel the inspiration that Kristeen is giving. You don't even listen, half the stuff she's saying, those are words that do not sound like real words to me, like all those medical terms that you're using. But I'm so engaged in how you're presenting it. And I can feel what it is, the message that you're trying to get across. I may not fully understand it from where I am, but it encourages me in a different way. So even I want my listeners to follow you and listen to how it is that you're presenting and remember where it was that you came from. You know, knowing your backstory when they go to watch your content is going to affect them in a different way now that they see it. They could just follow you and I don't know anything about her. But now that they feel this, if they're on a journey to some new path, to some new course, to some anything new, heck yeah, they're going to listen to this and be like, oh, now I know where she came from and I can appreciate where she is and learn from this. So I am so grateful for you, girlfriend. I'm grateful that you traveled halfway around the world. You came to Nashville. You were in that room. I mean, that was so damn exciting, honestly. And I mean, guys, I just want y'all to know we stayed at the Dolly Parton Hotel in Nashville. We got to see a huge Dolly Parton head, right? Like her bust up on the
So
terrace.
good.
Oh my gosh, it was so
So good.
fun. We have the best pictures from it. But that took courage, Kristeen, to come from around the world. That took courage to put yourself in a room where I wasn't going to know anybody there. Some of the women actually did know other people in the room. This was another event that they went to together. They kind of traveled in groups, but you changed countries and you came across and you were like, I'm going for this. And that freaking like right there, I was like, I like this girl.
But right back at you, right? It's just so like inspiring to have met everyone in the room, but you are a standout, Nina. You know, like your energy, it speaks for itself before you even say hello. It's just, it's so, I think I'm quite positive and vibey, but you're like another level. Like I aspire to be
The
more
two of
like
us
Nina.
together.
I know.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
good, but yeah, I think there's so much to be said for that. But yeah, maybe I did roll the dice on it, but it was such a gift, and it was
Yes.
so you know, and I don't even think we know that was only like last November,
November,
right? Like I don't
yeah.
think, yeah, we don't even know the ripple effects from that yet, and we're going to do this mastermind together and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Growth.
so I'm so excited for the future. Yeah, what you're going to do as well with your this podcast and all of the amazing things that are going to come from that. So
Yeah.
it's so exciting. I'm watching the Nina show in lots of different ways, including listening to the podcast. It's literally one of my favorite podcasts. Like I
Oh,
listen to
thank
every
you.
episode. It's so good. Yeah, I love it.
Well,
Some
when
good
I
vibes.
see
Yeah,
it on the map, it's like, and there's Australia. I'm like, oh, I know who's listening in Australia.
it's me.
Oh, well, thank you, Christine, so much again for being with us, for giving us your wisdom, your knowledge, your journey, for being open with us and like vulnerable because you were giving us some stuff about what you went through. And I will encourage everybody, please, Christine is such a fabulous person. Follow her so that you can get some of those good vibes in here and may it encourage you and build you up. And Christine, girl, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Oh, and listen, guys, if you want more of these types of episodes, be sure to tune in for another episode of The Nina Gervase Show. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one.